Okay, it's now 6:30. Council members, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
And everybody's ready? Okay, very good. I will call the meeting to order. Call the meeting to order. City of American Canyon regular city council meeting for September 3rd, 2024. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamos is excused. Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember Pierre Washington.
Here.
Vice Mayor David Oro.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you. Moving on in our agenda, we have now a report on closed session, confirmation reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, members of the public, you convened an open session at 5:30 p.m. And to address the matters agendized for closed session consideration. After determining that there were no comments on those matters, you proceeded to closed session at 5:31 p.m., which concluded at 6:03 p.m. With respect to the matters that were considered before you, I will do a written report upon return from closed session, consistent with the provision of Government Code Section 54 and 56.1B. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council members?
No, sir.
Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on with our agenda this evening. Proclamations and presentations. National Hispanic Heritage Month. Bueno, bienvenidos a todos. Good to have you here. I have a couple of proclamations to read, and then we'll move forward with that, okay? Okay. City of American Canyon Proclamation. Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas the National Hispanic Heritage Month, known as Mes de Herencia Hispana, is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year. The observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Week and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover the month at which it is celebrated today. Understanding that September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of the independence of Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and in September 16 and 18, Mexico and Chile celebrated their independence. And whereas the City of American Canyon looks forward to celebrating Mes de Herencia Hispana, highlighting the rich heritage of arts, history, food, music, and tradition of all 26 plus Latin American nations, while recognizing that these nations are not monogamous, and this month celebrates, honors, and pays tribute to all of their contributions to our city and our community. And whereas the City of American Canyon has a long history of welcoming immigrants and is home to a growing multi-ethnic, multicultural Latino population, all of whom are welcome and very much appreciated. And whereas the diverse Latino population of American Canyon makes a significant economic contribution and has other profound positive influences on our community through their strong commitment to family, faith, education, hard work, culture, and service. And whereas this community thrives on the diversity and ingenuity of all people and depends on the continued support and success of our diverse Latino population, and we will continue to be enriched by the transcultural contributions of our Latino friends and neighbors for many decades to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Alcalde Leon Garcia, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2024, as Hispanic Heritage Month, Mes de Herencia Hispana, in the City of American Canyon, with great pride. Thank you. We have a couple of recipients here who are going to step forward to receive the proclamations. Please use the, adjust the microphone, please.
Good evening, City Council members and community members. My name is Jorge Gonzalez. I am president of the Napa County Hispanic Network and president of Gonzalez Vineyard Management. I'd like to share a few words with you pertaining to the importance of the month of September. Hispanic Heritage Month is a crucial acknowledgement of the rich cultural contributions and diverse histories of Hispanic and Latinx communities in the United States. It is an opportunity to honor and celebrate the achievements and traditions that have shaped our society, while fostering a greater appreciation and understanding of these cultures. By taking the time to highlight these contributions, we enrich our collective experience and promote inclusiveness and unity. As a first-generation Mexican-American, I am deeply humbled by the sacrifices my parents made to provide me with a better future and opportunities. It is their sacrifices, cultural teachings, and traditions that contribute to my identity and the way I show up in my community today. It is an honor and privilege to be a part of this historical moment, and on behalf of the Napa County Hispanic Network, I want to thank the American Canyon City Council for celebrating Hispanic and Latinx Month with today's proclamation. Thank you very much.
I'll present you with a proclamation. Thank you, class. We're going to do a photo. We've got two proclamations. You want to get, how would you like to do this?
It's the same proclamation, just for two different groups.
Yes. Right. At the same time? Okay, please. Yeah. We're gonna get the other group as well. Okay. Okay. And who is the other group, please?
This is
Ballet Folklorico?
Quetzali Ballet Folklorico Napa Solano.
Okay. Do we have a little performance? Big performance?
Hi, and thank you for having us. I'm not as prepared as his speech.
That's all
I
right.
didn't know, but our group is Ballet Folklorico Quetzali, Napa Solano. This group was established in 2014 by two moms, one from Vallejo, one from American Canyon, and they did it mainly to keep our kids learning from our culture and our traditions. Our group has grown since then. We got to a point where we had around 50 kids. Right now it's around 27. It's up and down because a lot of them went out for college. But our girls are here today, and we want to thank you for this proclamation, and also we hope you enjoy the presentation that we have for you guys today.
Oh, bueno, gracias.
Thank you.
We got a música, por favor. Well, we have the technology side.
Did you want to give them the proclamation?
Yes. Yeah,
before?
uh-huh.
Okay. It's the same, yeah.
Please come forward and receive the proclamation. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Gracias. Bienvenidos. Gracias. Gracias. And I think we'll have a group photo together, everybody, and then we'll have a performance. All right? Photo? Yeah. Okay. Then we'll perform.
Everybody, come on.
president of the Napa County Hispanic Network. I was president of the Napa County Hispanic Network about 40 years ago. You want to question? Yeah, one more. Thank you. Supervisor Ramos.
Mira lo que te traje desde Colima, desde Colima. Mira lo que te traje desde Colima, desde Colima. Una pineta de oro y una chelina, y una chelina. Una pineta de oro y una chelina, y una chelina. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene. Mira lo que te traje de Manzanillo, de Manzanillo. Mira lo que te traje de Manzanillo, de Manzanillo. Una pineta de oro con un anillo, con un anillo. Una pineta de oro con un anillo, con un anillo. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene. Mira lo que te traje desde Comala, desde Comala. Mira lo que te traje desde Comala, desde Comala. Una piñata de oro, una patilla, otra pa' tu hermana. Una piñata de oro, una patilla, otra pa' tu hermana. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Oye María, tu mamá viene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene. Cuéntale una mentira si te conviene, si te conviene.
They're out of breath. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Looking for a classroom or somewhere to practice.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's a beautiful performance. It's a lot of work for young ladies to do, and certainly brings highlights a lot of our heritage. Did point out, Ms. Kita, that they may be looking for you to a place to practice. That they might be the community room here at the Old Napa Junction School. Maybe might be a spot available where they can do the practice. So ask them to be in touch with you on that, and myself as well. Well, thank you for that. That really resonates. for many of us. Wow, beautiful work. And we look forward to future celebrations as well. As our pointed out, I was a founding member of the Napa County Hispanic Network. It's involved lots with scholarships for kids. And I've had the opportunity to see them achieve in life. 40 years, they're past college now. But yeah, it's an amazing work, and it was an effort that started with an awful lot of work. Many of the founders are no longer with us, but their work continues, and I very much appreciate what you're doing to carry that forward. And for the cultural heritage, yes, we should share more. And it's always great to experience that and the treasure you bring to the community with that. So thank you. Okay, moving on with our agenda. If public comment is open now, anything not on the agenda? Have we received any cards?
I have no written comments, but I do have Beth Marcus.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Beth Marcus. I'm here on behalf of my son-in-law, Ian Smith. He is the soccer coach for the American Canyon Atletico. I guess that's how you say it. And anyhow, he wanted me to invite the city council and the residents of American Canyon to opening day on Saturday, September 14th, 7:30 a.m. at Kimberly Park. So I just wanted to extend that invitation to city council and all the residents. Thank you.
At 7:30, September 14th,
Yes,
7:30 a.m. at Kimberly Park.
Kimberly Park, yes.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment?
I have no hands raised online.
Okay. If you have public comment, please come to the podium and identify yourself, please.
Good evening, everybody. I don't know how to dance that beautiful, but I know how to cut hair. So I'm here. My name is Cecilia Pacheco. I work on Cecilia's Hair Salon. Today, we opened 12 years ago today.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yes, praise God.
Good to celebrate.
And I want to thank all of you for acknowledging this month for us. This means a lot to us. This is very humbling for all of us that you guys acknowledge the Hispanic community in American Canyon. We are very happy and blessed to live here in this beautiful city. We're sad that you're going to go, but I know somebody else is going to take your place and is going to do a beautiful job. But I just want to invite everybody. If you guys need a trim, a beautiful haircut, a treatment, come to Cecilia's Hair Salon, and it's located at Canyon Corners, okay? It's been there. And I want to introduce to you Gloria. Come over here, Sister Gloria. This is the beautiful voice that when you call and make an appointment, she will answer for you. Yes.
Cecilia's Hair Salon, how may I help you?
There you go. God bless all of you, and I'm so happy that my son is here, and his girlfriend, and my husband. So I'm very happy they came.
Oh, very good.
God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Good to have you here tonight. Any other public speakers? Please, step forward.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to read directly what I was told to read. I want to invite City Council community members to our gala, our 40th annual gala. So, like I mentioned previously, I'm the president of the Napa County Hispanic Network. We usually have an annual gala every year, but as you all know, COVID happened, and a couple of other things happened. So, we haven't had one in about 4 years. But the one we're having is going to be our 40th annual gala, October 5th. It's going to take place at Charles Krug Winery in St. Helena. And we're really, really excited because it's going to be the biggest and best gala we've put together. And, Mayor Garcia, we really want you to be there, as well as everybody else, council board members, please. This event is the Napa County Hispanic Network's annual gala. We raise scholarship funds for the Napa County Latino youth that are higher education bound. We are proud to share that while in hiatus, the network continued to award scholarships, even increasing the award levels and number of scholarships. This previous year, we gave 32,000, and it's only increasing by the year. So we can't do that, without the community's help. So we're really excited about that. The network board of directors of gala committee members are excited to bring back the gala, like I mentioned. And tickets are currently about $150 each. Tickets can be purchased via our website at www.napacountyhispanicnetwork.org under events. So again, please bring your dancing shoes. It's going to be a great time. Again, October 5th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to say that I will not be able to make it that evening, but my wife is actually helping Lucia on that event. So
Thank you so much for that.
Patricia Oro, look out for her, and
Absolutely.
she will be there. So
Fantastic. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And likewise, I will be out of town that weekend, so I can't be there, but I wish I could have.
Well, I will certainly look forward to the celebration. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, then we have, anybody online?
There are no hands up raised online.
All right, thank you very much. I'll close public comment at this time. We'll move on with our agenda, council. Agenda changes. If there are no consent items to be called to discuss, I will accept the motion for the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion to accept the.
Actually, I apologize. I would like to pull item 6, the water treatment plant membrane replacement.
All right,
Sorry.
is there amendment to that motion?
If we pull that, I'll second the motion to approve the consent calendar.
Well,
Other than
the
6.
maker of the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar with the exception of item number 6.
Then I'll second that.
Okay, motion second, roll call, please.
Just one moment. And it will be. Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro,
yes,
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Okay, now we'll take up item 6, which is the water treatment plant membrane replacement.
And
Councilmember Joseph?
the only question I had is to clarify, are we including the refurbishing of the cassettes or not? And if we need to amend the resolution dollar amount?
We don't. I apologize for any confusion in the staff report. So we have what I'll characterize as older membranes, and then we actually replaced 2 cassettes last fall. And so we're refurbishing many of the membranes and many of the gaskets, but the 2 newish ones are not being refurbished because they're already kind of brand new. So it's kind of a combination of refurbishment and replacement. There's also 2 spaces for additional cassettes, and so we are purchasing some new ones. So it's a combination of refurb, new, and keeping the brand newish ones from last year, all 3 scenarios. But the dollar amount and the quote is fine.
Okay, so as long as we're making sure everything is as refurbished as practical and the dollar amount is staying the same, then.
Correct.
Then I appreciate that, and I'll make a motion to approve item number 6.
I'll second that.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro,
yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, council. Moving on with our agenda, there's no public hearing this evening. We're moving on to business item number 8, 2024 National Community Survey Report.
Oh, there it is. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the community. My name is Jen Kanzenbach. I'm the city's communications manager, and I'm here tonight to share the National Community Survey Report results with you. So what is the NCS? The National Community Survey is a survey conducted by the National Research Center by POLCO. It measures 10 facets of livability in a community and defines a livable community as not only a place where people do live, but where they want to live. And the 10 areas that it measures are up on the chart. So we conducted the survey between May 7th and June 16th of this year, and the last time we conducted it was in 2022. All households within the city limits were invited to participate in the survey. There were 2 collection methods out. One was a probability sample that was generated by Polko, and the other was open participation. The survey was available in English, Spanish, and Tagalog. The probability sample mailings were sent by postcard to selected households, randomly selected households. We also ran social media posts, articles in the city manager's update. We ran a Google ad, a Facebook ad, Gov delivery emails, and we also provided paper surveys to the mobile home parks and active adult center to help promote so that everybody could participate. So here is a quick preview of the results. We had 519 respondents, which is a 55% increase from the 2022 survey. The results were mostly similar to the 2022 findings, and I've listed out here the highest performing areas and the lowest performing areas. The highest performing areas are areas where there were increases from last survey in 2022, but also where we ranked pretty high in the national benchmarks. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm gonna grab my water really quick. Sorry about that. It was a little annoying tickle. Okay, so in the highest performing areas, the feelings of safety and crime, feelings of safety in the community and crime prevention were increased in this survey compared to last. The community's ability to attract people from diverse backgrounds, the opportunities to participate in cultural celebrations, the traffic signal timing, traffic enforcement, and the ease of travel by car all increased from last time. So on the lowest performing areas, the overall economic health of the community as a place to visit, taking care of vulnerable residents, availability and affordability of health-related services, the bus or transit services, and public information services. So when you look at the national benchmarks compared to American Canyon ranks within the top 10% in quality of public safety services nationwide and higher than the national average in police services.
Very good.
So also, when you compare American Canyon to the national benchmarks, we rank lower than the national average as a place to visit, the vibrancy of the downtown and commercial area, and the traffic flow on major streets. No applause there. Come on. It's true. And it's being addressed all of the time. So we also, in these surveys, have the ability to run a half page of custom questions. And in this year's survey, we did custom questions related to parks and recreation usage. And so what we were trying to find out there is kind of get a pulse on the community for the timing that they'd like to participate in activities, where they like to spend their time. And the Parks and Rec director was happy that her team had a pretty good pulse and wasn't really surprised by anything. So you'll be hearing more about that in the coming months as they develop their programming or continue to develop their programming. Okay, so our next steps, sharing the results, we're going to be publishing this report online.
Okay.
Oh, the virtual city hall cut off. That's the virtual city hall up there. The website link is there, the address. And we're also going to be kicking off a messaging campaign on all of our communication channels to share these results. And the next survey will happen in 2026. And that's all I have for you tonight. The entire report is in your packet. It's also available on our website. Next week, when we publish everything, there's also a interactive dashboard where people can dive really deep into all of the details, every different category, and I'm sure you'll all have fun doing that.
Well, thank you for the report. You know, I did have it, took time to go through it. It was in the packet. And interesting, the areas where people are very interested and we're not necessarily aligned with what I thought they would be. But good we do it. What do we know about who participated in the survey?
So the breakdown is in the report results. POCO, when they do the categorizing, they check the demographics of the probability sample to make sure that it's representative of our community.
Okay.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's a lot of data in that report that explains everything about it.
Well, there seems to be a lot of interest in outdoor activity, as I
Yes.
recall. Yes. So here we have the Wetlands Walking Trail in Newell Open Space, and certainly the activities we have related to that. Seems to be good, healthy attitude for the community. So I was pleased to see that, yeah. Other comments from council?
No, that's very useful information. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Oro?
Yeah. Did POCO provide any insights to you? Did you go through the presentation with them? Did they share their findings in a way that gone over it, and was there anything there that stood out else that we probably didn't report to?
So the results that the presentation I just did is actually the results from them that they shared with us, the key findings and the main points of the study.
Yeah. I think it's generally on par from 2 years ago, and the plan is to do this every 2 years, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and I'm glad we were having that benchmark, and I think before, when I got on council, we wanted to do this again, and I think it's a valuable exercise. I noticed that on places like governance, and then economy, it didn't vary too much, but things were lower. There were several lower spots along the way. Did they talk to you about that in any way in terms of what they may attribute that to?
Well, the last survey that we conducted was right after COVID.
Yeah.
So there was I think some of the public safety extraordinary results are because of the feelings of extreme feelings of being unsafe at that time. There was a lot happening in the world. So no, they didn't.
Yeah, and just for the public who may not heard the report, we're not dropping by 40% or 30%. It's
No.
like 55 to 52, but a lot of trend lines were like that.
Yeah.
And as I read through it, I was like, a lot of this may be the fact that sign of the times kind of thing, right? So it'd be interesting to see this in 2 years when they have a normal time to compare to. And then, obviously inflation hit us after COVID and things like that, and particularly those quality of life issues were there. But overall, I think we held up pretty well. So thank you for sharing and conducting this report.
Yeah, Councilmember Oro, on page 53 of the packet, as POCO is describing the survey and the technical aspects, it characterizes it as a plus or minus 4 percentage points related to, level of confidence. So plus or minus 4 is.
So
kind of
we're in
8%.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of those sort of, within plus or minus 4% of last time would sort of that would just be statistical in nature and not necessarily pointing to anything.
Yeah,
Then
a
when
hard
you
trend
start
line.
to overlay some of the
good
post-pandemic
point.
things.
Good
So-
point. But then you also said in your on your slides a 55% increase in the number of participants. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the metric we're the most happy with.
Yeah.
Because, and I often joke we can't fix problems we don't know about. So I don't care whether you tell me we're doing a good job or a bad job. I just want to know what you think. Yeah. And not that I don't care about your opinion, but we want to know, we want our residents communicating with us. And I thought some of the attendance numbers as it related to community participation were pretty interesting, and I'm looking for the page right now, but there was definitely an increase in folks who had, and this is, sorry, I'm looking for the page here. It talked about whether they had attended a council meeting or they had attended, and I'll find it here in a moment, I
I
promise.
think it's in the governance section, Jason.
Do you have to know what page that is? I was just
Yeah,
looking.
it's page 2016 on the, page 10 on the report itself. I don't know what it is in the packet. I don't have
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 60 of the packet. Yeah, and or page 59 of the packet, governance. You know, there were some, you know, some variations, I think, within the margin of error. But you know, attended a local meeting going from 11 to 23. You sort of described that as to being maybe outside that margin of error. Or, you know, contacted American Indian elected officials to express your opinion, 15 to 24. You go, okay, so when you couple those two, you go, okay, maybe there is some resonance there as far as folks participating more. And so that was, you know, some metrics. So, yeah, you know, those are the things that kind of struck us. One of the other aspects that we found interesting, particularly in the park and recreation questions, had to do with time of day and day of week sort of interest levels for programming. And going to the custom questions now, sort of page 80 of the packet, 30 in the report, a variety of preferences as far as attending for recreation programs, right? You have weekday afternoons between 12 and 4, actually the least popular. But, you know, weekday evenings after 4 are popular, weekend mornings equally as popular. So you have this sort of divergence, and none of them being, you know, a majority by any sense, 22%, 25%. So you look to tailor a service, you really maybe want to drill into that. We've experienced that. We have maybe some folks who like an evening kind of program, whereas others want a Saturday morning. But it's not heavily weighted one way or another. So trying to deliver a service or a set of programs that has a wide range of availability or response interest is a challenge. You know, it'd be easier if they said, oh yeah, give it to us on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We'd do all those things and we wouldn't have council meetings. But, you know, we have folks who want, you know, weekend mornings, folks who want weekday evenings, and nobody seems to want to do anything on a weekend evening, for example. So, you know, okay, that kind of makes sense. And we want to spend Saturday night necessarily. So that was, you know, the programming, the rest of the programming information, none of it was surprising, especially with particular how popular outdoors and outdoor activities is. It's, you know, it's in our vision statement of all things. So, you know, that seems to align. But day of the week, time of day was interesting for us.
I think a lot of that, just can't help but wonder how much of the residual effect of COVID and the economic issues that we all face impacted that as well. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, I'm always excited when we have these reports because it is a good thing to get feedback from the community. So I'm glad we're doing it routinely. A couple of things. One thing that stands out, just as the manager was saying, is running, walking, and biking on trails is almost an 80% interest factor. So, you know, and interestingly enough, it's always a free activity. So there's no fear of inflation relating to that. But a couple of things that stuck out, water quality and utility billing were ranked lower. The utility billing, I think, you know, when you raise your water rates, you have to expect getting dinged on billing as a matter of you raise my rates. The water quality issue, now that I'm thinking it, I think there's a distinction between the real quality of the water and it has a look or a smell or something that can be perceived. But it was interesting that those areas came out lower than normal.
Councilmember Joseph, the survey was going out during the time when we were flushing pipes too.
Yeah, there would have been a timing issue.
Yeah,
in
timing
May.
is everything. The last one that struck me as peculiar, when they talk about have you voted in the last election, and I think they were saying it's 78% voted in the last election, which is interesting because I think our turnout is more like in the 40s and 50s, but that's interesting. So as I like to say, usually you know what the right answer is. It may not always be the truth. But I'm glad you guys did the survey. I like the information. It does kind of reinforce what you think, generally speaking. You know, the low ones, you know, traffic and lack of economic retail services. Yeah, those are predictable. having such a high level with public safety is good, though, because, it's everything. If people feel safe, you can just about you can work from that. So safety is number one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I run into new to American Canyon, people move here because it's a safe community. Number one on their list. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, just real quick, Jen. For the more seasoned residents of American Canyon, what do we do to kind of help accommodate them to get this data to us as well? Because the seniors, the youth of the community, I don't really think I saw their input inside of this. And I'm just curious of how the seniors were helped.
So we had paper copies of the surveys over at the Active Adult Center, and the staff there helped people fill it out if they wanted to, if they want to do it online or fill out the paper surveys. And then we also partnered with the multifamily properties, so Valley View, the mobile home parks, and had copies of the surveys available to them as well. And then fire and police actually helped collect all of those and make sure that we got those back from people.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then, of course, all of our other messaging, we have like the older adults newsletter. We have a fairly good subscription list on that of a couple hundred people, so we shared it through there as well. And we also did a media release. So
yeah, and the report shows that we hit the targets for the age groups you wanted to hit, except for the younger groups, they were a little bit lower.
thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Right. Any other comment from council? Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Public comment on this matter is now open. Anybody wishing to comment?
Mayor Garcia, I have no speaker cards and no hands raised online.
Okay.
Mayor Garcia, may I just add one more thing? Sorry, Jen. I know this is a receive and file, but how do you plan to use this information?
Yeah, happy to take that. Yeah, we're still digesting it. I think for us, there's not, again, it's 2 years worth of data points, right? So there's nothing in here that's going to say, okay, we're suddenly going to change the plan they're on or the trajectory that we're on. We had some sort of counterintuitive responses, a lower response around city information, and yet higher participation rates and more people filled out the survey. So we have these sort of contradictions we're sorting through. I think probably the most actionable piece will be around the park and recreation item that I mentioned before, and how we were able to tailor those questions, because we're looking at how we deliver those programs and what programs to deliver. We think the median age in American Canyon is ticking up. We think we have anecdotal evidence that the population boom of the early 2000s has now matriculated their children through the school system and isn't being replaced as much. And those kids are now off to college, off somewhere else, starting lives of their own, and their parents are not yet grandparents largely, but they're out and they're active, they're wanting to do adult stuff. And so we're shifting our focus a little bit away from sort of preschool and elementary school type recreation, which was a heavy focus of ours, and now into something like adult sports leagues, for example, are proven to be pretty popular, and those kinds of activities. So tailoring a time of day and a day of week approach to them is what we're looking at, and so that's probably the most actionable piece, and really confirming the track that we're on.
To that point, I think it's reflected, and I don't know what the impact is on American Canyon, but school districts lost over 1,400 kids in schools. The smaller family sizes, and that may be a part of our picture as well, what you're seeing.
Yeah, the schools in American Canyon are generally plateaued, but what has increased is the number of transfers from outside of the school district, which are housed in American Canyon schools. The American Canyon generated students is less, but they're able to backfill that void.
That makes up for that deficit that the district as a whole is realizing, but outside may not necessarily be participating in any activity here.
Exactly, and we're not tailoring our activities for groups outside of American
Thank you.
Canyon. So.
All right. Anything further? Any further public comment? Thank you. We'll, this is a receive and file, and thank you very much. We'll motion to receive and file.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Just One moment, sorry. I was not prepared for a motion. Okay. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you, council. Move on to item 9 now, City Council Code of Conduct and Governance Protocols.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you is providing feedback on a draft City Council Code of Conduct and Governance Protocols. No action tonight, just receiving the information, providing feedback so that we can eventually proceed and finish the document. So how did we get here? I want to thank the effort of the Governance Ad Hoc Subcommittee and Councilmember Joseph and Vice Mayor Oro. I want to thank our city clerk, Teresa Gilfus, as well for her work on this. And I also contributed to the revision of the document and the staff report. And we've been at this for, I was trying to go back and figure out, it's been the better part of 3 years. And from my memory, I didn't go back and look at when the council subcommittee was actually appointed, but it's been a while, and we've kind of gone on at fits and starts. And the reason that we've been looking at this document is the current governance protocols we have is really kind of a mashup of what you would consider governance protocols and city policies and other things. And it really felt like an opportunity to really focus on how the city council conducts itself and how individual council members conduct themselves, and then to recognize the fact that yes, we're going to have policies, and yes, we're going to have these other things. They should be living in a separate document. And the idea around these governance protocols is that it's going to stand the test of time a little bit. It's not to be revised as frequently, or it can be, but not necessarily intended to be revised that frequently, whereas the various policies that the council might have is going to come as policies are needed and much more frequently. So really taking the document that was originally done in we think 2007 and modified over the years, and really having a fresh look at it, and then really trying to streamline it, although I know it probably doesn't feel like the document got any smaller. We were trying to streamline it. And yeah, so we were trying to streamline it with the intention of making the body of the document that thing that kind of lives in semi-stone. And then these appendices would be in the back, and I'll just caution from the very outset, pages 117 and 1 through 130 in the packet actually weren't supposed to come to you. Those were really draft version of the appendices, and they're kind of jumbled. So ignore pages 117 through 130 of the packet. And also, please ignore any kind of proofreading or edits or anything like that. And also, we haven't even begun the legal review of this through Bill's office, so that hasn't gone through that scrutiny either. All that to say that the point is to have the body of this document withstand the test of time. These appendices, which generally will be the state law that's applied, whether it be the Brown Act, AB 1234, a whole variety of state laws that come and go whenever the legislature decides, that we can just change out the appendices as state law changes without having to revise the entire document, hopefully. And so what is meant to be in the body is this kind of local expression of what it means to be on the council. And then in the appendices are the verbatim state law, more technical in nature. The document is sort of set up as follows. There's an intro and then a section that really identifies American Canyon's vision, mission, and values. And those are really community identities, not necessarily this organization, but broader than the organization. And then section 2 is meant to be a code of conduct, and the idea behind section 2 is this document, this acknowledgement would be signed by all council members and by all commissioners who serve on various city-appointed commissions. Section 3 starts to get into governance, identifying city council goals and values, roles and responsibilities between council, city council members and various other entities or bodies, roles and responsibilities with staff and evaluations. And then section 4 jumps into the big topic of meetings, and really explaining, what meetings are, how they are conducted, the different aspects of a public meeting. And I should just take a step back. One of the other points of this document is to create a roadmap for future council members to, orient towards as we bring on new council members, and this becomes kind of a guiding light for them. So Section 4 is really about meetings. Section 5 is a whole discussion on council compensation, and Section 6 is really around the administrative support that council members can expect when serving on the council. So kind of a job description, if you will, a little bit of for the city council, at least a little bit of that framework. And then, as I mentioned, we would have a list of city council policies. So there would be a list of stuff that is, we'll call it referenced in this document, but is a whole list of policies that aren't going to be in here, but are still city council policies. And then there'll be a whole list of appendices. Again, what does the Brown Act say? What does AB 123? All those very, very technical details. So again, those appendices haven't been fully curated yet. We'll be pulling from published documents of others mostly, so we can just replace them as needed. There are a couple of topics I wanted to highlight for you because we wanted to have discussion on these items. I do envision the council subcommittee getting together a final time, incorporating these comments, doing a final version of this document, and then polishing it. And if it's ready to go, we'd bring it back. If not, we could do another iteration. It really is up to the council. But there are a couple of topics I wanted to make sure we covered tonight. The first relates to council compensation. There were some changes in council compensation approved late last year, I believe it was, and there's a lack of clarity about when that's actually going to apply and to whom it would apply. So the ordinance reads it can apply roughly on November 6th after the election. The question that we have is it going to apply on November 6th, or is it going to apply for the new council, which we don't think will be till December 3rd at the earliest. So, and why that matters, of course, the operational side of things is you all are treated as staff from the payroll perspective. We have to implement an action form and details as far as payroll and everything, and there's obviously work every time we change things. So are we doing this twice for a very small period of time, or are we doing it when the new council's seated, for example? So there's some ambiguity there. But we think this document should get specific about when those things apply and when they can be changed. Dealing with council member absences, excused absences, unexcused absences, how is all that tracked and applied? Right now, the governance documents is pretty, there's some ambiguity there. So we wanted to get that clarified. And I should actually take a step back on council pay. In the past, the council has received compensation for considering matters of the former water district. We're, at this point, recommending that not continue in recognition of the additional compensation and the ambiguity around what is a water district matter. So really clarifying that. Is the council comfortable with an acknowledgement form of code of conduct, imposing that on yourselves and other council members and on commissioners? So just that threshold question.
What was that last part?
The acknowledgement of the code of conduct, section 2. Is that, is it, sure, that's nice to say put in a document, but I'm not actually going to sign a piece of paper with my name on it that says I'm going to follow it. I mean, that's a threshold question. So, around city council meeting agendas, right? How, the document describes how items can be on a city council agenda, the order in which those items are considered on an agenda, which business item goes first, second, third, the details, the prescription of that. Does that need to be more robust with council involvement, or is that something that the manager is doing? So we wanted to get all that clarified. This is the document where that gets clarified. There's a
Excuse me, a point with that too. There's been those times come up where we need to change the order of the agenda.
Frequently.
Yeah.
In fact, Bill and I were just talking during the beautiful presentation. We thought we had to pull something because we were getting our wires crossed. So those changes happen frequently, and and yes is the answer, Mayor. But
that would be need to be recognized in that. I would think.
There's a section around religious invocation, something that isn't in the first document that is something that's added into here, and what is the framework for that and the reasoning for that. So I'll say the code of conduct in particular, some aspects of the code of conduct are rooted, we'll call it rooted in state law or federal law. So, for example, conflict of interest under page 94 of the staff report, or of the agenda packet, I'm sorry, conflict of interest, item number 12, those things very easily we can point to a provision of the government code or some other code that says you can't do that. You can't accept gifts specific related to any specific action you're going to take. That's pretty obvious. Something like religious invocations, is that more of a local standard that we're doing, or is there a state law that requires that? So there is some of the code of conduct, like I said, is rooted in state law. Some of it is more of a local, we'll call it preference. And how do we go about identifying those aspects and identifying those preferences or the state laws? The last piece, something that Councilmember Joseph and I talked about, is sort of maybe some additional content could be in here about the overarching role of the city council in this. There's some additional discussions about the role of the city manager and the city attorney as those city officials in which the council conducts performance reviews, and that's why that information is in there. But does there need to be more additions about what the role of the city council is? So that's an aspect, and lastly, there's notwithstanding the work that all went into it, I'll say there's no pride of authorship here. So edits, changes, so forth, we're definitely taking suggestions. I don't know that we want to do red lines tonight. I think we would be a little bit higher level, but we definitely have worked hard and in good faith on this, but if there are issues with it, we're taking this all with a grain of salt. And also kind of recognizing two council members here were part of the subcommittee, probably more advanced in their understanding of this document than the two council members who weren't a part of this process. Right. And they're more catching up to speed. So we have that. And I think I'll conclude my remarks, Mayor, unless there's any questions, or definitely looking forward to the feedback.
Sure. I appreciate the work that the two council members, Councilmember Joseph and Vice Mayor Oro.
Mr. Mayor, and I know Pierre is next, but if you guys want, we can just give you a quick update on how we approached it. Yeah. This is Jason's thing. We worked on it kind of on and off for 2 years, or I can let you have the floor too. Yeah.
I just think that we need to have some clarifying questions, and then maybe at that point
Okay.
you can come back and,
All right.
and explain some of that clarity. Okay?
Councilmember Washington.
First, I want to say this is a pretty good report. I read it over the weekend. I'm impressed how you took an 80-page document and reduced it to 40-page. But I'm also curious about specific pieces of it, and
Sure.
one, in fact, being, and I've had the conversation with you, City Manager, about it, and that's bullet point number 11. And I think I should read it so everybody else has at least an understanding of what it says. 11, religious invocation. Religious invocation is allowed. However, it doesn't say however, but the religious display and religious speech, including prayer, and it's the only thing in this entire document that has parentheses around it, the including prayer piece, by the council or individual council members during council meeting is prohibited. Today we had a display of the Hispanic people coming in and showing their ethnic pride. And I kind of feel as though the rest of American Canyon kind of follows in suit with that. We are the most diverse city in all of Napa County. We have different ethnic groups. We have Protestants, we have Hindu, we have Sikh, we have Catholics, Muslims, Christians, and Buddhism. And yet, we have, in my opinion, and I personally took offense to it, so I don't know who wanted to put it in there, but I always reflect back to April 20th, 2021. I was only on council for about a year, and it was the night that a guilty verdict was pronounced on Derek Chauvin on the George Floyd murder verdict. And I believe that still has festered since that night, because I asked for a moment of silence, and then I asked to pray for our city, to protect our police department so we wouldn't have negativity happen within the city. So when I read this document, I was pretty impressed until I got to that one part, because I feel as though that there were personal items, because I just need to know and understand why, or why is it being entered into our code of ethics, when I think our ethics is now going to be challenged. Question would be, is it because it's a state or federal law that we're not abiding to? I think the answer would be no. But I'm open to you, Mr. Attorney, to let me know if that's something that I'm missing.
I can respond. I think, obviously we'll look at the provisions that are set forth in the document, but generally the rules are about invocations, that, they're non-sectarian, okay? What does that mean? That one faith can't be advocated over another, and that generally you can't, in the invocation, I'm going to use a word, deify one aspect of one religion over another. There's an issue about under the state constitution about, some attorneys have called it the embodiment of the prior United States Supreme Court case. The non-sectarian language was taken out of a 2014 opinion. The prior case was Lemon v. Kurtzman, which said that, government can't take an action that advances one religion over another. The later standard that I mentioned about non-sectarian emphasizes the fact that you have to balance access to all the religions that may be present. We can certainly look at the provision about prayer, but even in the state constitutional cases, the idea that prayer should be required is not supported, right? The idea about moments of silence or reflection or statements of guidance, are. So I think what I'd like to say is we'd like to look at this, set the standard out so that there's a broader framework to look at that.
Okay, well, you made a statement that you said that it shouldn't be required. I'm not arguing the fact that it should be required. I'm making a statement that it shouldn't be banned. And I made the acknowledgement that we have several religious groups
Correct.
in our community.
Right.
And to say it's being banned is the thing that I have the concern with.
I share your concern. I think, I've discussed it with Jason a little bit before the meeting. I think there'll be a meaningful analysis of that section so that there can be an accommodation of what I heard you express and what I think members of the community have wanted to say or have acknowledged in council meetings when there are extraordinary events like you referenced.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I asked.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think the report is an awesome report. And I thank you guys for taking the time to put it together.
Do you want to do?
No, I was just wanting to comment if the report is good, it's fine. I just wanted to say that generally Mark and I worked on it the first iteration was hard. And Jason, I want to thank you for getting it down to half those pages. When I looked at it, I was like, where is it? And then I realized that's what we requested. And I think for us and for incoming council members, as well as commissions and boards, it'll be a lot easier to read and understand because it's separating actually policy guidance from code of conduct. So good job on that. And I'm glad to see that we're getting it here. And, time and change or change in time or the forcing function to actually get it out and produce something for it. Thanks.
All right, very good. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, I'm pleased that we have it here, and it certainly has been, worked over for a number of years, and so I'm glad we're getting close to the finish line. In general, it's good. There are 2 or 3 areas that I do think we need to get a little council direction on. One of them does relate to one of the last points the city manager brought up, that is the role of the council. There are parts of it throughout, but I do think a separate section that discusses the roles and responsibilities of the council need to be identified and kind of put in its own place, because this is, after all, the council's protocols. So I do think that ought to be highlighted and elevated as well as relationships that the council needs to have and develop, because I am firmly one who believes that the informal relationships and working relationships that we develop is usually how you can get things done. And so I would definitely ask my colleagues to say, let's identify a separate section that highlights the roles and responsibilities of the council. They're in there, but they're diffused in the document. And so it's more of a wordsmithing to make it highlighted so that we remember that, as the preface talks about, the way to success is the council and staff work together as a team. And we need to realize that both parties are equal in terms of their input into the decision-making process. So that would be one thing that we highlight separately. The second area gets a little bit into the mechanics, and that is the agenda-setting process. As you know, under the Brown Act, if it's not on the agenda, we can't take action. And so in my mind, managing that agenda becomes critical. And there are other cities that will have an agenda-setting committee that is usually the manager and the mayor and often the vice mayor. And those three individuals will kind of review the agenda that's coming up, and can also be more involved in the forecasting and managing of what's coming up and what isn't. I would be partial to having some kind of a structure like that, conceivably taking the finance committee that already exists and simply adding that function to that existing committee. How we do it, isn't as critical as the idea that I do think one or two elected officials ought to be part of that regular agenda setting process. So that would be a second area that I would ask the council to consider. And then lastly, on compensation, I'm okay with the water board going away. I mean, we're going to go from 300 to 900 or 315 to 950. So if we lose 125 for the water board, we're still ahead pretty good. And the mechanics of how that is implemented, and annual increases and so forth, I think the question I would throw out, or the concept I would use, is the state law says these are the minimums. And it seems to me that, arguably if the election is November 5th, that means any time after that, arguably we could make those salaries effective. And, for the sake of convenience or transition or whatever, we could roll it forward to December 1 or January 1. So I think I think we can make it, less beneficial to us, if that's the right concept, for the sake of convenience to make that transition work. And then the other point on what the new state law allows, it's kind of confusing to me. It sounds like anywhere from 5 to 10% a year. It has to be approved by an ordinance. And the only caveat I would use, again, if we tell our employees that they have a cost of living of 2 to 4%, we might want to use that philosophy as a clue or as a guidance for our own compensation. Otherwise, at the next negotiating, we're going to hear things about, let's have a 5 to 10% COLA. It's good enough for the electeds. So those are really my issues that I would hope you would consider.
The only question I have, Mark, I'm actually going to ask Bill this question. As far as an agenda-setting subcommittee, what would be a standing committee at that point? That would have to be Brown Act, right? You would, that my one thought of that is we would actually have to agendize that meeting like we do the finance committee, just to make that awareness, right? I mean, that would be its own process. We don't televise those meetings, but that would be different than we do it now.
Question to that, would that be something that we would probably consider rotating it throughout the year? Because, just to keep it,
Yeah, I mean, it's
fair, I would think that
it's
rotating
like the finance committee rotates, probably mayor, vice mayor as it rotates probably. I don't know, we would have to decide as a council, but.
Yeah, that's where I tend to get into the mechanics of it all, but the real philosophy is I think we need to have some elected input in the actual setting of the agenda is really the point.
Yeah, Sorry, Mayor, I was gonna jump in, but I see a blinking light. I'll hold off for a second.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty much agreeing with most of what Councilmember Joseph was saying, but I do want to get to a point that I did take note of, and it was around. I think Councilmember Joseph was talking about the role of the council member or the officiating body, and the way that the document is. As I was reading it last night, it felt very restrictive for me.
Okay.
Which I didn't like the tone, and I understand code of conduct, but I didn't want it to be restrictive. And I'll give you an example that I pulled out. And I don't know exactly where this passage is, but it said, in this capacity, I think it was talking about how you vote and how you recommend you do things. In this capacity, the city council should rely on the technical expertise of staff and the input of the community. It is correct, but it is also missing things and wrong. If I rely on you and the community, I'm missing outside experts and knowledge to make a decision. We don't make these decisions in a vacuum. We make these decisions based on a number of factors, including our own personal prejudices, our knowledge, or lack of understanding of something. And I just felt that very restrictive and tight, in the fact that, like, read the council report and do what the public says, even though the public may have not read the council report or has a vendetta about a certain issue, right? We have to weigh that as council members and kind of see and read between the lines. And I think, I think if we just, I would suggest, re-looking at that tone to where it meets code of ethic guidelines and council conduct guidelines, without being so restrictive and relying on either staff or others. It's just, it's a subtle change, I think. I just felt very uncomfortable with it, and I also disagreed with a lot of that. So, then the only other one that I had, because we're going to have new people reading this, so there's, potentially there's definitely two council members coming on board that will be new. The note of explaining the difference between public hearings and business items. Just a little line or two about what those things are and how they may come about. As I was reading it, and I was like, I kind of know what they are, but I was trying to think of myself when I first came in, what those differences were. So a little bit of an example about that, what that might be. But generally, that tone is my big message across there.
Okay, further comment?
Just real quick on, just to piggyback on what you were just saying, Councilman Oro, I actually think that the code of conduct probably wouldn't be the place for that. That would probably be something like an orientation that we should develop, which is something totally different for, what you get when you become a city council member and how you do things. I think that our orientation would probably be more in that realm than a code of conduct.
I think this is given at the orientation. That's when it's. Are you talking specifically about business item or
how we process through things? I think that should be through an orientation. This
I think we can add a sentence that distinguishes. I mean, I think we could add a sentence of, generally public hearings are required by somebody else. Sometimes it's required by an ordinance that we've adopted, but a lot of times it's state law that's requiring things. So it's the requirements around disclosure for public hearing are probably the biggest aspects. Anything adjudicatory, in that regard is going to require a public hearing. So, but I think we could add a little sentence there. That's not a big deal. But I did want to, if you could find, and I mean, if everybody has a little bit of time, I do want to get into a couple of different conversations. Councilmember or Vice Mayor Oro, if you could find that language you were referring to, I'd love to take a look at it and digest that a little bit.
I got it.
Yeah.
Section 3.
Okay.
City Council Government, page 10 of the actual packet. Not your packet, but the page 10 of the 10 of 43 of the governance protocols.
Okay.
First paragraph, last sentence.
can you say under what heading? Maybe it was,
Section 3, City Council Governance.
but maybe a subheading that follows, is it in the very beginning of that one?
Yes, the very beginning of
Okay, okay.
It's literally page 10 of the. Page 10 of the governance protocols. I don't know what
Maybe
page it
Marcus
is.
found the
Totally
page.
don't know.
97.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay. So
Oh, I see they're not numbered on there. Sorry, it's numbered on mine.
my page 97 doesn't have that.
It's actually Section 3.
Oh,
City
in this
Council
capacity at
governance.
the, the beginning paragraph, in this capacity, council should rely on. Okay.
And that was, it was kind of peppered throughout here and there, just double check that. It's a nuance, but it's also.
Well, I'm not so quick to just sort of toss this away because I think you picked up on the nuance, and I think there is some intention behind that. So part of, I think, what we're trying to outline in the document is trying to set aside those personal things that individuals might be bringing to the table and to bring a more encompassing, in my mind anyway, more encompassing perspective, relying on technical expertise and staff and consultants. I mean, maybe the limiting part is staff, right? I mean, there's a whole list of technical experts, so that it isn't just staff, and maybe that's a good point to say. It is consultants, it is experts, not just staff, but experts. And I'll give the issues around like traffic, for example. We'll from time to time we'll have folks express concern about traffic and their perception of, well, maybe a traffic hazard or a traffic issue. And if that were to come to council, we would want council to say, hey, we're going to rely on our police chief. We're going to rely on the traffic engineers. We're going to rely on the data. And we're not going to rely on the feelings or the emotions that are being brought to the forefront. And we're not quite saying it that forcefully, but that is in there. And if that's not what we want to have, I think we should have that discussion. Because this document is meant to say, look, we're going to rely on expertise, not necessarily emotion. But if the council doesn't want to go that way, we should get that.
No, I think you should rely on expertise and public input, right? And not on your emotion. I guess really it is. I don't know how to. Maybe I'm missing it, or maybe I'm reading it wrong. But I don't want to limit the knowledge to what we have in front of us, because we should see the world that's a little bit bigger around us, if you will. And I'll give an example: the parks master plan document that we came through. The recommendation literally was to adopt a budget to talk about a plan. And I felt uncomfortable with that because the plan that we were going to send was missing things that we wanted as a community. Again, I'm relying on community input. I'm relying on past knowledge. I am also not relying on a staff report that's sitting right in front of me.
Sure.
Right. And so there's a nuance there, I think, too. And I just felt like it was. I see where you're coming from of removing the emotion, and I used the word prejudices earlier. You should probably remove your own prejudices when you're making a decision, right? But I just want to make sure that we have, as a council, because we're elected by the body of the people, and that we're acting and conducting ourselves ethically with the right sense, but at the same time having the ability to make decisions that aren't as restricted as how I feel it is in this document.
Okay. Yeah.
If I can follow up on that,
Go ahead.
I think that's why it's important that we include a section that just defines roles and responsibilities, certainly of council, but as well as staff, the city manager, the city attorney, and relationships, because I think in the definition of those roles and responsibilities, we get a better understanding of what it is to be on the council. There's leadership and service, there's vision and strategy, there's accountability and oversight, there's setting priorities. And when you begin to look at the role of the council in that context, you begin to understand that we have an affirmative responsibility to oversee things that isn't the same, it's the same responsibility for the welfare of this community that staff has and the council has, but we approach it differently. And I think it needs to be articulated in the protocols so that a new person walking in is going to say, okay, I get it. My role on this council is to think big picture, is to provide service and show up at events and make tough calls on priorities. All of those things are critical. You use staff to assist in that. You use the public input to assist in that. You get lobbied by, everybody and their brother. All of that is because it's our job to integrate all that and figure out what's best for the community. And so I think that's part of why we need to have a separate section that brings all of that together. Right now it's in there, but it's so diverse that you don't realize that these are the council's responsibilities. It comes across as if somebody is supposed to be looking out or overseeing something. And so I just think a little bit of wordsmithing would go a long way to kind of bring back that focus.
Yeah, I can wrap my head around that. Makes sense. Page 99 of the packet starts to highlight those topics, but it's under not the heading of city council role, right? And so maybe what we end up doing, because there is a whole section on different bodies and roles and responsibilities, but the council itself doesn't have a subheader with that. And so perhaps there is a way to reorient or repackage a lot of what's on 99 and 100 under council roles and responsibilities.
I think so.
Okay.
I think the discussion, it's important to bear in mind decision-making process between what are the more, say, personal, emotional side of issue versus the larger picture. I mean, I'm having to remind myself from time to time about, I might feel something very strongly about this, but how do I frame it for a discussion that broadens it to the point where we can all, it's not just my opinion, we can have shared connection to it. Because we all have our own personal opinions about things. Well, that's important to share. But how do we take that from, do it my way to how do we do it our way, jointly together? And that sometimes, I admit I do struggle with that. But at times it's like, okay, I have to remind myself, beyond the me thing, it's the we thing. We all have to work together on it. Maybe that helps, I don't know.
One topic we haven't hit yet, Mayor, relates to absences.
Yes,
And
I
I
was gonna
wanted
ask you about
to
this.
cover that with specificity because, we're providing clarity or change to what currently exists. And so, we're making a distinction between regular city council meetings, the calendar of which is adopted in January or just December of the prior year, and special meetings, which can be called with much shorter notice. And so for regular meetings, a council member must notify the mayor and the manager at least 24 hours prior to roll call. And we don't define what notify is, but I think something as simple as a text message would accomplish
message,
that,
phone call,
or even a phone call. Importantly, we're not saying you have to give a, quote, valid reason or excuse or whatever. It could be I'm in Tahiti or it could be I'm in the hospital. We're not saying you have to justify it. We're just saying you have to inform. And so at that point, it is the mayor that has the power of granting the excused absence, but it's not unlimited. And so what we're saying is the mayor's power to grant that excused absence would be 4 times per calendar year per council member. And then after that, it would have to come to the body to then excuse the absence. And for special meetings, we're saying you just need to do it before roll call because the notice for that meeting, is very short. And so, again, the 4 would apply, but a little bit different circumstances with a special meeting.
But I'm also considering, we have our respective committee assignments we have to do. Some important business gets done at those. So we need to have some way of accounting for, yes, I did attend flood board, for example.
That's actually a very good point, Mayor, and we don't address that here. We address absences from council meetings, but not from assigned committees, whether it be NVTA or Flood Board or LAFCO or any of the
Right.
bodies, individual council members. So that's probably something that should be in here, you know, and I think we can kind of develop what a standard might be. There's nuances with each of those bodies. For example, I at this point, I don't think the council could remove the mayor from the NVTA assignment because I think NVTA bylaws require that the mayor be there. So there are certain ones you may not have the authority to, but there are others that you would. So
Well, we also have alternatives who are designated to attend.
yeah, correct. So I think that's a
Needs to be addressed in terms of a, well, prior notification of an alternative, I suppose. You're saying I won't be able to attend MBTA or Flood Board or something like that, then.
So, just to add on to the absence conversation, so for excused absences, the first 4 would come from the mayor, the 5th and beyond could come from the city council, and we say if the city council determines whether reasonable circumstances exist. You know, we don't define reasonable, but, you know, we felt comfortable leaving that up to, you know, the council. If you don't have an excused absence, and you fail to attend a council meeting, that's deemed unexcused. And so we say council members may, after you have 3 unexcused absences, you start to be ineligible for compensation. And we probably need to refine that a little bit because, and probably gonna have to get Bill's opinion on that too, but how we withhold compensation for that may or may not be a straight line. But we put that kind of standard in here, and it also would allow the council to, you know, sanction a fellow member for more than 3 unexcused absences. So that specificity isn't in the current protocols, and you know, just that framework and those numbers, we hope that would make sense. We talked a lot about, you know, providing justification and all those sort of things, and we felt like at least the first 4, it was like you don't necessarily need a justification. It was just tell us,
Yeah.
And then after that, additional things. So
Clearly, this was probably the most difficult in terms of just trying to figure out what the process should be, because, you know, we are all technically equal, so it's hard to say, you know, it's difficult. I think the idea is that we're expected to show up, and if the standard is just you're expected to be here, and if not, give the mayor fair notice, because at some point, if it gets bad enough, we get into an issue of quorum. So, you know, being there is important.
Mark, when we discussed this, we wanted to talk about, you know, flexibility and accountability. And
Yeah.
so that's why those numbers were there. We were like, what's a flexible
Yeah.
Okay.
way to do it? And that's the number we came up with. We could obviously change it depending on a majority of this council, but it was like, yeah, I mean, if you're gone 3 times out of how many meetings, we're doing
Maybe
24 meetings a year, if that,
most,
you
yeah.
know, it's a reasonable amount. That's how we approached it.
Yeah.
That's how we thought about it.
Yeah.
And I would add that, you know, it's not the norm, but a lot of times we have council members or people get on council who are also employed. Okay, and those job restrictions, you know, we're not all retired yet. But we got to make sure that we make provisions for those people to keep them, to know that they can apply for city council and still know that their job won't hinder. You know, some jobs require travel. Some jobs require immediate assistance, last minute assistance. So just keeping that in mind as well.
Yeah, Councilman Washington, that was a big factor. It was like, you know, people are employed. I have a business to run, and sometimes I'm just out of town. So, and that's why that number was a little higher. It wasn't restricted to 1 or 2 meetings. It was like 3 or 4. So
That's fair.
right in a calendar year, not a term, right? So that would reset every calendar year. Something else we haven't touched on, but as it relates to minutes, bottom of page 107 in the packet, you know, we provide action minutes. Council took action, adopt resolution, blah, 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 to do blah, blah, blah. And we do note who provided public comment at the beginning and those sort of things. And then the council may direct additional specificity if we're returning back or whatever, so that we don't forget, you know, what the council has directed. So, you know, it's written in the optional, meaning the council can direct it, but we didn't put it in the sense of the council shall direct additional specificity, only because we didn't want to move into action minutes where we now have this whole paragraph for everything. So that's where that was, but again, there's, the council has the prerogative here, so.
And I'll butt in because I appreciated that. That was one of my other issues. And the rationale is that there are many times when we'll have a very robust discussion, or we'll start with something that kind of goes sideways and we work it out on the dais, which probably we shouldn't, but sometimes that's what we do it, and we do it well. And so there's kind of a consensus, but it's going to have to go back and come back for review and further action. My concern is that if we don't articulate what that direction was somewhere in the minutes, ideally, over time, we're going to, one of two things. Either A, each of us will go away saying, okay, we decided to do ABC, and then 2 months later, it's not ABC, and we're convinced that, somebody didn't follow through. And so the fact that we don't all remember it the same way is a problem. And so by writing it down, not necessarily for every item, if something's approved as proposed, that's fine. It's only in those situations where something doesn't go according to plan, there's some discussion and direction that, come back and do ABC on this revision. That's where I'm suggesting it behooves us to articulate that in the minutes so that we can review it and say, yeah, that's what we're looking for, versus not having anything so that, some of us think we're supposed to do it one way and staff thinks it's another. It just tries to minimize the confusion that happens.
Or you're starting all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
By putting it, and if staff gets it wrong as we define it, you can pull the minutes and say, I don't think it's that or whatever. And
It's a good idea.
yeah, so that's the only reason. It would only be done where there's basically been some direction provided so that we all know what we're supposed to do and when and so forth. So that's the rationale for that.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I'm sort of, I know I said I wasn't going to redline, but I'm sort of thinking like, something like the council should direct additional specificity, items that are going to be coming back or something like that. Although we haven't necessarily been doing that tonight for this conversation, which is coming back. But we go back, one of the things that staff does, just so you all are aware, is when items are coming back to council, part of our routine is to actually go watch that item in front of council so we remember it and we refresh it too. So that's just a regular practice we have. So we don't always take all the notes either. So I did just want to cover the agenda setting thing and just talk about what we do currently. So every agenda packet at the end has a list of future agenda items. It's kind of a 60-day look ahead-ish. And we've started including all the commissions as well because we actually found of the interplay and we felt like we wanted to communicate back and forth, and so the council was aware of that. So we include those future agenda items, and then at the end of every meeting, there's a process in which a council member can say, hey, I want an item on a future agenda, and we talk about it. And the way that we can specify this a little bit more, but the way that we kind of handle that is if this is what I'll characterize as like an administrative question or administrative update that really isn't a policy issue, we'll bring it back if necessary, but maybe it's just a question you want answered and no need to wait 2 weeks. But if this is a policy question, like what's the status on Newell Drive, how can we make that happen faster, that's a much more lengthy sort of thing. And so we discuss it with the council. I often will ask questions to get that clarification because we're bringing it back. And then the council by majority vote says, yeah, we want a future item on there. And then we start tracking those items and putting them on future agendas. And that one, for example, is on the October 15th. So that's how we do the future agenda items. And that's, I'll call that the formal way. I meet and talk with each of you, each week, and we kind of talk about what's going on and so forth. And there's also an opportunity informally to talk with me about future items. And we generally have the same approach. If this is an administrative thing, like, what happened to that sign looks like it fell over, we talk, okay, we'll go and get that fixed, not going to bring that to council. If this is, why are our rates so high, what can we do to lower rates? That's a policy conversation. And so generally what I tell you all to do is, hey, that's a great topic. Why don't you bring it up next Tuesday or tomorrow night under agenda, future agenda items, and let's have you bring that topic up. And I'm sure your colleagues are going to share your interest. And then let's have you bring it up that way so we can get a record of who wanted it and when, and when we thought we would put it on the agenda. So that's what we do now. As it relates to the forecast, so we do have a 12-month forecast. It's populated, I'll call it substantively about 60 days out, 60 to 90 days. It's not like I couldn't tell you what's going to be on the agenda of the second meeting in March coming up. I don't know. But generally have a sense about the second meeting in October. We do populate the proclamations and presentations ahead of time. We have a lot of reoccurring ones, and something we're going to start doing in December is to actually give you the list for all of 2025, rather than doing it on an ad hoc basis. We're just going to say, here's the list for 2025, make it simple on ourselves. So we have that forecasted out because a lot of them relate to a certain month or whatever. Yeah. It's cyclical. But we don't have, like I said, what's going to be on the second meeting of March. So, so those are the opportunities right now for all council members to inform what's on the agenda. My concern about having just 2 members of the council involved in the very mechanics of one particular meeting or the next one is twofold. One, the slowness that's going to involve in the process, and then secondly, the other 3 who are left out of that picture. Exactly. And so, okay, and notwithstanding the fact that we have to agendize that as a standing Brown Act committee, that would also be a concern. But that's kind of where we're thinking. But if that's where the council wants to go, certainly we'll do it.
Yeah, that was my concern when I said about the rotating piece, because if you have 2 people constantly on there, I could see it being, hey, what I want on the agenda versus what my colleagues want on the agenda. So that was my concern.
Yeah, and maybe there's some other things we can do short of especially an agendized ad hoc meeting or a standing committee meeting. So there may be some things that we can do. So I think that's good feedback, and I'm sure we can make something out of it.
Councilman Joseph, explain to me how that's not part of future agenda items. And could we do that business here? Yeah. Meaning, so right now in front of us, there's future agenda items here. And as a council, we could say we want next week a traffic forum if we wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm, listening to everyone, I think that may be a way of handling it. It's probably the most important piece would be some kind of means of logging in everybody's request. And I go back to 2 or 3 city managers ago, Rich Ramirez would, every time a council person would say we ought to talk about something, he would have like a little log that would say, okay, on this date, council member X wanted to do something, it's now scheduled for this date or that date. And I thought it was a very effective way of tracking all the things that are said, because sometimes, you're not going to get to it in 2 weeks. And, sometimes it may take a lot of time to get there. And the idea is that it needs to be somewhere on a list. And so it may not require an agenda-setting committee as much as we may need to resurrect, a council request log or something, so that we keep track of everything we've asked for, and sooner or later, it's going to stay on the list, and somebody's going to say, let's get it done, and so on.
We can address that with each council meeting with this future agenda item.
Yeah. So I'm thinking there may be other ways to administratively do it.
That's a fair point. I mean, we have this sort of 60-day look ahead. We could include that of unscheduled yet council requested items that have been voted on. And to the extent there are any, at the moment, as I look at the agenda in my mind, I don't think there are any. I think that log has 0 on it. But I'm not inviting more. I'm just saying there's 0. But we could include that with this to say, here's the future items. Here's a log of the things that are scheduled at a date yet uncertain. So that you are aware that we're tracking them. And then to Vice Mayor Oro's point, this item is included in the packet. It's on the agenda for you to talk about. So if you said, for example, if I had the Newell Drive thing on October 1st, I happen to know Mark's going to be out of town for various reasons, and Mark said, gosh, council members, I see that on October 1st. I really want to be part of that conversation. Are you cool? Can we move it to the 15th? You would say, yeah, let's do that. And I wouldn't even need you all to vote on that because it's okay. That's the kind of thing. It's not a new item. It's just we want to do some of that scheduling here. So, and I apologize if I haven't maybe made that representation, made that clear. That the point of having this is awareness, but definitely you all have the ability to work with me and say, you know,
Yeah.
can we move some things around?
Right.
There may be some things we can't move around, and I'll be happy to share what them, what those reasons are.
Yeah.
But
Let's come up
generally,
before
it's
where
been-
we have something that is an issue that council feels very important, so we like to have this agendized. We'll talk about it next
Yeah.
meeting, or give us a short-term date where we can have to address this thing because it's time sensitive.
Yeah, we'll start with a log
Yeah.
of council requested items, a
Right.
date of who and date that was requested, and we'll start with that, and we'll see how that
Yeah,
plays
I
out.
think
And
that'll help.
All right,
Yeah.
very good.
Okay, good.
I think that's all I had, Mayor.
You're good? Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Public comment on this matter? Anyone?
I think we broke our own rule by doing all of our comment in front of this instead of public comment first.
I did notice that protocol. I was like, we're never going to
I
get to
think
that.
we broke it. I apologize. We are supposed to have public comment first instead of
Yes.
having them
Yeah,
board
well,
with all of our
we did,
comments.
yes. Well, yeah. Yeah, they're lined up out the door. Public comment on any of this?
I
Please go
have
ahead.
no cards or hands raised online.
I just want to compliment you. This is great. Although I do miss the past city council meetings where we had so much entertainment when there was fights going on.
She wants to bring back the MMA.
I mean, those are really a lot of fun. But this is really a great document. You did a very thorough. Good job.
Thank you.
We'll have the MMA section of the agenda after we adjourn.
Cyclone fence.
Well, we have discussed in the past about having a halftime entertainment show on council meetings, so.
Well, some of those previous ones, I'm sitting here in the middle trying to keep the peace. Okay, anything further?
Not on this item, no, Mayor.
Okay, we got some recommendations, more work to do, so we'll
yeah.
move forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Management staff oral reports?
Yes, Director Akita has kind of a what's happening now, American Canyon. And I'm looking around the room. I don't think any other folks have updates, so.
So what's happening out there?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There's quite a lot this fall, so buckle up. Starting on September 4th, which is tomorrow, we have our Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. On September 5th, September 5th and the 6th, the DoubleTree is hosting a summer entertainment with live music from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. On Saturday, September 7th, the Parks and Recreation team will be celebrating the California Biodiversity Day with a free staff-led hike in Newell Open Space. Please join them from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It would be a great opportunity to go up there if you haven't seen all the work that's been done over the last couple months. We've made some great, significant improvements. On September 11th, the American Canyon Fire Protection District will be holding a remembrance ceremony and a moment of silence at 10 a.m. at the station 911 on Donaldson Way. On the 12th, the Parks and Community Services Commission meeting is at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. On September 12th and 13th, the DoubleTree will be hosting a summer entertainment with live music from 6 to 8:30. On September 14th, we have several events going on throughout the city. The city will be holding a free paper shredding event here at City Hall in the parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's free to American Canyon residents. Also that day, the Parks and Recreation staff will be holding a learning about pollinators at Wetlands Edge from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then also, if anybody would like to become a lifeguard, we are currently taking lifeguard registration to take the class, and that will be held at the Philip West Aquatic Center. And then lastly, don't forget, we are currently seeking both youth commissioners and regular commissioners for our 3 commissions, the Parks and Community Services, Open Space, Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission, and Planning Commission. If you are passionate about making a meaningful impact and collaborating with our local leaders, apply today. For more information, please visit the city website. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Hawley?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Move on to Mayor Council comments, committee reports. Councilmember Joseph?
Nothing to report, but soon we need to have a little report out on the Climate Action Committee's Regional Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. We've, as the mayor knows, we've identified some 21 measures, 11 that are mitigation measures and 10 that are adaptation measures. And we should probably bring back that to the full council for feedback and direction, because that's going to be kind of the meat and potatoes of the plan going forward. And so that's just an FYI. It's more of an informational presentation in the near future.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's something that we're all going to be working on countywide. And then there's, in those there are the, as they say, the low-hanging fruit, those ones that are easier to achieve. Always a good place to start. If you feel success, then you feel like moving on for more. Okay?
Mayor, just a quick question. I don't think we need to vote on that or anything, but just the format of how to bring that back. Being that you and Councilmember Joseph have been the ones in those meetings, and my question is, do you want me to try and have somebody from Napa County staff come and present that? Are the two of you comfortable presenting that? Just a little bit of those details. I don't know that I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I can get comfortable with it, but that's
Yeah.
going to take a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Councilmember Joseph is the senior member
Yeah.
from City Council here.
We could, Ryan Melendez is kind of the direct staff person. So we can reach out to him to see if he'd like to come and do a presentation.
Okay.
Got a good slide presentation on
Yeah.
it that
So
spells it out.
something, yeah.
Okay.
Just like I said, just to get the rest of the council and the community kind of up to speed on
Yep.
where we're headed.
More
Okay.
informational than a decision process.
Yeah, because it'll be too early to formally act on any of it. And then I should also bring up the foodware ordinance that the Climate Action Committee had directed everyone to at least send it out to our respective jurisdictions to get feedback on. So
Yeah.
I probably need to send you a copy of the ordinance before you can respond to it, but I'll follow up with that.
Very good. I think more discussion to be had on that too, in terms about businesses that would be impacted by that. So
Yeah, I think it's one of those where it's a nice start. We need to tweak it a little bit to reflect where we're at, but it is something that we should bring back to get feedback, even if it is thanks but no
Yeah.
thanks.
Well, just
Yeah.
due diligence around
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Councilmember Washington,
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Oro.
Yeah, just a quick report. Visit Napa Valley was in the news recently. Not the most flattering news, and there's still some issues going on through there. I sit on the Napa Valley Tourism Corporation Board, which helps provide funds to Visit Napa Valley, which is a separate nonprofit. Based on what happened there, and you can read about it in the news, we held a special meeting recently, and we will be hiring. We found that we were exposed because of this. An issue came up, and we did not have our own attorney as the Napa Valley Tourism Corporation. So we will be bringing on an attorney soon to help guide us and be a part of that. And so that process is happening probably in the next month and a half or so. And they will probably be part of our regular meetings there. So.
Okay. Thank you. Well, a number of things there. Really nice to see Benton Way completed, all the striping and everything. That gets rave reviews out there. So I think the families are feeling much safer about it. The kids certainly seem to be, certainly will be, it's remindful for them how they should be getting to and from school. So that's good. Actually, it happened last, a month earlier. It was the first day of school. I had an opportunity to catch up with Mr. James Dennis, who's the new principal of Donaldson Way School, and Carlisa Botelier, who's the principal of the middle school. And we did have a reception for a new principal for the high school as well. Some of the community members said so. We got new teacher principals all the way around. It seems like Donaldson have not met the new principal for the new Napa Junction School. Eagle Scout, young lady Anya Surinam, obtained the Eagle Scout Award. So that's quite an achievement for somebody who is, I think, 17 years old. And it's a, you have to, if you're going to achieve that, you have to do it before you're 18, get all the work done. But it's quite a, Scouts has changed a lot. It's no longer Boy Scouts, it's Scouts. And for girls and boys both, young men and young women. See, Labor Day celebration. Yeah, Monday over with the Napa Solano Central Labor Council. Was a good day. Good speakers from Congressman Garamendi and Congressman Thompson and others. So look forward to that, having more of that get together. It's a good point in time to network with others. Well, I think that would wrap it up for me for tonight too. So that will conclude it. Future agenda items, we talked about that too. Anything for the greater good? Thoughts on that?
No, sir.
To be determined. Okay. Very good. Well, with that, council, we have concluded our business for the evening. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, council.
Good night, American Canyon.